I was a Bombers man, purely because of Michael Long.
He was shy. I can always remember, gosh, doesn't this fella talk? He was promoted as a really big name and promising player before he came to Melbourne. He came from such a famous family.
Those long bounces, I remember he used to bounce the ball probably 2 metres in front of him.
30 metres out! Oh, what play!
For a guy at the time, he was pretty lean, pretty skinny. To be able to win the ball inside but also get on the outside and be very damaging.
Drop punt off his left foot was a really deadly pass and usually hit you on the chest.
He just looked like he was made of rubber, the way he got away from his opponents.
To see his blistering pace and his incredible skills and talents, and he reduced the size of the MCG to that of a basketball court. He was everywhere. There is absolutely no way that I would have predicted that he would have changed history in several ways, and obviously most notably in 1995.
We believe it's a lockout. People still outside the ground with the game about to start between Collingwood and Essendon, so the crowd inside is something like 90,000.
It was the first big Collingwood-Essendon Anzac Day game. The game was an absolute cliffhanger.
Diving on its milk course, and the ball is locked in here on centre wing.
Tackled Damien and then was abused by the player. It's probably a shock to anyone around the ball.
The Essendon players, particularly Michael, were not happy with the Collingwood ruckman, Damien Monkhorst.
I saw it from the stand, obviously, and where we were sitting. I thought, here we go again. It's not uncommon.
Person saying something about who you are or the colour of your skin, whether he's trying to put you off your game. You know, it's a strike at the heart, the soul of a person. You know, you don't know me. You don't know where I come from. I think there comes a time in your life where you've got to stop this, not only for yourself, for others who come into this game of ours. So, obviously when it did happen, you know, I felt really strongly that something needed to happen.
Well, it made everybody feel, at long last, that a major issue that had been swept under the carpet for too long was finally going to be addressed.
We believe that mediation is definitely the best way to resolve these matters.
One of the few positives to come out of this whole affair has been the acceleration in the introduction of the league's Code of Conduct policy.
It's a time when the AFL proved itself to be a leader in society as well as a leader in sport, and I remember Tony Peake basically handed the task of talking to Indigenous footballers across the code.
Where do you draw the line? Where's it going to stop? It's not only for myself, but for the kids, for all races of people, know that they can't really use that language anywhere, not only in the sport.
It did come with a lot of pushback, and it did have several stages before the ultimate result, which was, of course, the racial vilification rule that became a leader not only in Australian sport but in international sport.
Without Longy, you know, working with the late Tony Peake of the AFL, we may not have had Rule 35, and when it started it was very much about dealing with racial vilification, and now it deals with vilification more broadly.
I think that was a really important part of documenting that players had to look at themselves and understand what they're saying, what they're doing, you know.
I guess the biggest cultural change was that what goes on the field no longer stayed on the field, and that rule was dead forever. In these times, it was just culturally ridiculous that players were allowed to say anything they liked to other players.
I have no anger or bitterness towards Damien. Actually, it's totally the opposite. He's probably been one to change the course of the game because I wanted him to actually understand what he'd said and what he'd done and what he's done off the field to change people's attitude has been enormous for the game, and that's just important what happened on that day.
So much has happened since 1995 that Facebook wasn't born, Twitter wasn't born.
Sadly, this year we've seen, you know, pretty consistent racially motivated trolling against the stars of our game. And obviously that's not acceptable, and it's the opposite of what Michael stands for.
I'm really impressed the AFL is devoting so many resources to changing that rule, because it's going to be tough.
I've known Michael Long since he was a little boy. Who would have thought that he would do the things that he's done? And certainly the long walk, which is an extension of him, shows you what he believed in on the ground and then what he's done after his football career was over.
I got the call that Michael was walking down the Tullamarine Freeway heading to Canberra.
Didn't tell me, no, he didn't tell me. It was spur of the moment and it was the right thing to do.
And the simple question to the Prime Minister was, where was the love for my people?
I think his actions now speak louder than his words, but that long walk has resonated with politicians and with the Australian public and the AFL and the football community alike.
When one person starts walking, someone will walk next to them and then someone else will walk again and I'll say, hey, what are you walking for? I'm walking for this. And then someone will say, hey, I believe in that too, I'll walk with you.
That's similar with a lot of other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders that I've met, that they are just sure that they need to do something. And I think it's one of the things that makes so many of us really proud of our leadership, that they pick up the fight and they take it on, or they get on the road and walk to Canberra.
I think individuals often are the ones that create change because they're the ones who capture the imagination of the public.
His life's really all about helping other people. He's not a person that wants to be out there in the spotlight all the time. He's doing it to benefit younger generations and, and he's done a great job.
When I was young and looking at my dad, how people pull Dad up in the street, that's the same as Michael. When he comes here to the ground, people can't get enough of him. Look at the various things that he's involved in and the programs which he runs in Darwin at the Michael Long Centre. He is such a pioneer.
You've got to be fair dinkum about making change, and this is a part of coming to Darwin. It starts with education. I've been a part of that failure in the system, and how do I change that to give other kids that next opportunity, whether it's football, whether it's keeping our kids in school or saving lives by actually making our kids make better decisions. I was once one of those kids, glary-eyed, really looking for opportunity or shy. I've been lucky and blessed to give them, hopefully, what we've built here, the centre here, those kids those opportunities.
That's why we write about football, because it throws up some of the most unbelievable stories.
Michael's been an icon. He's spoken of reverently.
And he's quite humble and very loving towards everyone and very caring. I think we feel blessed that he's the man that he is.
There's sometimes in life you got to step up, get a lead. Maybe my time was back then, 95. Maybe my time was in 2004, a long walk. Maybe it was my time to push for opportunities here for the kids with the Leadership Centre.
Fancy being one of the greatest AFL footballers that have ever played and then turn into one of the greatest public advocates of decency in our country and have that all rolled into one person.